This is part 2 of a 2-part series on the federal prison in Sheridan, Oregon. Last time, on As the Key Turns, I was telling you about the time a Union president named DeBolt was accused of purposely driving into a SORT team leader named Drake. Drake pressed charges and DeBolt was arrested and charged. I pick up the story with the start of the trial. If you've not watched part 1, I recommend you watch it or this part isn't going to make a lot of sense to you. On the 16th day of November 1999, a trial was held in the Oregon Circuit Court in and for the county of Yamhill. DeBolt was charged with reckless driving, fourth-degree assault, and harassment. The transcript for this incident takes up 768 pages of testimony. What follows has been transcribed from the official record of that trial. The attorney for the defense, Timothy DeBolt, was Mr. Lawrence. The U.S. attorney attended the trial in the gallery. According to Lawrence, the federal government wanted him to disclose confidential attorney-client communications. The government demanded to know what each witness for the defense was going to testify to, and if that was not disclosed, the U.S. attorney would instruct the witness not to testify. Mr. Lawrence objected strongly to government interference in the defense of his client, DeBolt. The U.S. attorney claimed that he was there to make sure that information the government wished to keep secret had to be protected. I'd point out that the government is supposed to be transparent and accountable to the people, but the bureaucracy disagrees with my point of view. That is also the several objections I've heard from BOP about what I'm about to talk about on this channel and what I have talked about on this channel. Too bad they didn't make me sign a non-disclosure agreement. Now, I won't bore you with the 2-day trial. It drags on and on. To put it all in a nutshell, here's what happened. Drake said he was struck by a pickup truck driven by DeBolt. He was hit while on the main driveway to the training center while he was leading a formation of marching men. The men were all members of the Special Operations Response Team, or SORT, as we called them. He said it was done on purpose. He could see DeBolt looking right at him and grinning. The vehicle was moving about 5 miles an hour and never hit its brakes. There was more than enough room to pass him safely. Several members of the SORT team said they saw the same thing that Drake testified to. Drake claimed that the reason he was hit with the pickup was to intimidate him. He and DeBolt had bad blood over the activities of the union, of which DeBolt was the local president. The members of the SORT team, and Drake in particular, were very pro-prison administration. The union interfered with the wishes of the administration. Drake and DeBolt had filed complaints on each other that were handled in-house, through investigations and dispositions. And there was no love lost, to say the least, between the two men. From personal experience at Marion, I can tell you that many, but not all the SORT team members, are very pro-administration. They see the membership in the team as a step on the ladder to promotion. I had one guy tell me that if he was told to jump, he will jump and ask how high on the way up. He was going to do all he could to get up as far, up that promotion ladder as possible. He eventually made GS-12 captain, so it worked in his case. I know another guy who just liked to challenge and getting paid to work out. He never got higher than a GS-8. The defense claimed that DeBolt never hit anybody with a vehicle. He claimed that he slapped the side of the vehicle and spun around and threw himself into the formation. The deputy did see a smudge on the side of his truck, but none on the hood. The defense presented witnesses by the name of Mr. Auger. It was his sworn testimony that he had had a discussion with another man named Kincaid, who had made a written statement stating he saw the vehicle strike Drake, as Drake said. During this conversation, Auger claimed that it was messed up that all those people on the SORT team had made false statements. He said it was immoral to damage a man's career over something that he never did. Auger alleged that Kincaid told him that it was a joke, and it was never meant to go that far, that they were, quote, just fucking with him, unquote, and that was all. This testimony was hearsay, and the judge said as much. The judge asked where Kincaid was and why he didn't testify. The defense attorney said he would be delighted to put Kincaid on the stand, but the U.S. attorney allowed Kincaid to testify to protect vital secrets of the government. They were worried that if Kincaid said those things, he could be subject to civil penalties and criminal prosecution for making a false statement during an investigation. In other words, the government was afraid one of its employees was helping to frame an innocent man and could get into trouble if he got caught doing it. The rest of the trial fleshed out the defense and several more theories of why DeBolt was guilty of absolutely nothing. The case went to the jury. The jury found him not guilty of reckless driving and assault, but he was found guilty of one count of harassment. The defense appealed to the Oregon State Court of Appeals. The appellate court found that the trial judge, on his own initiative, gave the jury wrong instructions on how to treat the testimony the defense gave in their witness, Mr. Auger. The instruction was so defective that it would have a good chance of making the jury find the man not guilty if he would have given the correct instructions. So the verdict was thrown out, and it was sent back to the trial court for a new trial. The prosecutor declined to retry the case. This means that DeBolt was not convicted and has no criminal record. And I could find no indication of a civil action based on these events. Perhaps because the U.S. attorney would have objected to anybody testifying at a civil trial. The events I just told you about is an example of the tension between the employees' union, the employees, and the administration of every federal prison. Admittedly, it doesn't usually get this bad, but there is a clear line between who's a suck-ass or a snitch and the rest of the employees. At Marion, we had people who would make up something to get somebody into trouble if they thought it would further their career. After a while, it becomes second nature to identify these sneaky suck-ass type. When I was a union steward, I was offered favors to sell out my fellow employees as well. I couldn't have looked the guy in the mirror in the face if I'd done something like that to help the administration screw my coworker to gain something for myself. I'm not friendly with those who did stuff like that. I find the practice reprehensible and smile when those people complain that the BOP didn't take care of them for all their hard work. Now, if you like this video, don't be an ass, hit the like button, will you? And if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe in the lower right of your screen there, and